Have you ever been told no? Not just once, but over and over again, until you started to doubt yourself. What if I told you that one of the most inspiring success stories began with exactly that? 37 rejections, one after another. This isn't just a story about failure. It is a story about a man who turned every no into a reason to try harder, and in doing so, became a beacon of hope for millions. Imagine a small town, the kind where everyone knows everyone, and big dreams are often seen as foolish fantasies. That's where Arman grew up. Life wasn't easy. His father ran a small shop, struggling to make ends meet, while his mother stitched clothes late into the night, her nimble fingers working tirelessly to support the family. Despite the humble surroundings, Arman's mind was a universe of possibilities. He wasn't just a boy from a small town. He was a dreamer. His heroes weren't fictional characters from comic books. They were real-life legends, people who had stared into the face of adversity and carved their own path. He spent hours reading about visionaries like Steve Jobs, who built an empire from a garage, leaders like Nelson Mandela, whose spirit could not be broken by decades of imprisonment, and innovators like Elon Musk, who dared to dream of Mars. These stories weren't just tales to him. They were blueprints for his own life. He saw himself in their struggles and their triumphs, and he believed, with every fiber of his being, that he too was meant for something great. After finishing school, while his peers were busy looking for stable, predictable jobs, Arman had a different plan. He wanted to build something of his own, something that would make a difference. He wanted to start a business, but when he shared this dream, he wasn't met with encouragement. He was met with laughter. A business? You? His relatives scoffed. Get a real job, Arman. Stop chasing clouds. Even his closest friends, the ones he thought would stand by him, started to drift away, whispering that he was being unrealistic. The chorus of doubt grew louder every day, but a quiet, stubborn voice inside him refused to be silenced. Arman decided to start small. He had an idea that was simple yet meaningful. Handmade, eco-friendly notebooks. In a world drowning in plastic and waste, he wanted to create something beautiful and sustainable. Using recycled paper and materials he could find locally, he began crafting the notebooks in a small corner of his home. Each one was made with care, a testament to his passion. With a box full of his creations and a heart full of hope, he set out 2 local shops, ready to share his vision. But the reality was harsh. The first shopkeeper barely glanced at his notebooks before shaking his head. Sorry, we're not interested. The second, the third, the 10th. The answer was always the same. Each rejection felt like a physical blow, chipping away at his confidence. He kept a tally. In just 1 month, he had faced 37 rejections. 37 doors slammed in his face. 37 times he was told his dream wasn't good enough. It was enough to make anyone want to quit. On those lonely nights, surrounded by stacks of unsold notebooks, the weight of failure was suffocating. The mocking words of his relatives echoed in his ears. The disappointed looks from his friends haunted him. He was on the verge of giving up. But then, he would remember something his favorite teacher once told him. A single sentence that had been etched into his memory. Winners are not those who never fail, they are those who never quit. That single thought was a lifeline. It was a spark in the darkness. He wasn't a failure yet, because he hadn't quit. So, he picked himself up. He looked at his notebooks, not with despair, but with a critical eye. How could he make them better? He experimented with new designs, used better binding techniques, and refined his craft. He realized that if the old ways weren't working, he needed to find a new path. He took a small leap of faith and created an Instagram page for his notebooks. He took beautiful photos, wrote heartfelt captions about his mission, and put his work out there for the world to see. At first, it was slow. A like here, a comment there, then a single order. Someone from another city had seen his work and wanted to buy a notebook. That first sale felt more valuable than $1 million. It was proof. Proof that someone, somewhere, believed in his idea. Slowly, one order turned into a few. A small community of supporters began to form around his page, and then it happened. The kind of moment that changes everything. The popular social media influencer, known for promoting small, sustainable businesses, stumbled upon his Instagram page. She was captivated not just by the notebooks, but by the story behind them. The story of a young man from a small town who refused to give up. She shared his page with her millions of followers, telling his story of perseverance. The response was instantaneous. It was like a dam had broken. His phone buzzed non-stop with notifications. Orders flooded in from every corner of the country. Overnight, Arman's little home-based project went viral. The small corner where he worked was no longer enough. His parents, who had watched his struggle with worried eyes, now joined him, their faces filled with pride. The whole family worked, day and night, his mother's skilled hands helping with the finishing touches, his father carefully packing each order. Their home, once a place of quiet struggle, was now a bustling hub of activity and hope. Montfluvi. Arman's brand, born from rejection, became a symbol of resilience. His notebooks were no longer just a product. They were a statement. They were found in the backpacks of students and on the desks of professionals. He had to hire a small team from his town to keep up with the demand, creating jobs where there were once few. The boy who was told to get a real job was now an employer. The pinnacle of this new chapter came when he received an invitation to speak at a major entrepreneurship event, the same kind of event he used to dream of attending. As he stood on that stage, looking out at a sea of aspiring entrepreneurs, the memory of those 37 rejections flashed in his mind. But this time it didn't bring pain, it brought clarity. He took a deep breath and spoke, his voice steady and powerful. Just a year ago, he began, I walked up and down these very streets, going from shop to shop, hoping someone would believe in my idea. I was told no 37 times. A hush fell over the audience. He continued, Today, some of the same people who rejected me have invited me here to speak. I want you to remember this. Never let rejection define your worth. Let it guide your direction. That line resonated deeply with everyone in the room. His speech wasn't just a story. It was a lesson. It was a raw, honest account of the journey from being an outcast to becoming an icon. His story was quickly picked up by magazines and major YouTube channels. He was no longer just a business owner. He had become a role model. Young people from all over wrote to him, telling him how his journey had inspired them to chase their own dreams, to not give up after the first, or even the 37th, failure. Arman's story teaches us a profound truth. Rejection is not a dead end. It's a detour. It's a sign that you need to learn, to adapt, to grow stronger. Success isn't a magical event that happens overnight. It's built brick by brick, through relentless patience, unwavering belief, and most importantly, consistent action. If Arman had surrendered to despair after those rejections, his story would have ended there, in a quiet room filled with unsold dreams. But because he chose to see failure as feedback, because he held on to that sliver of hope, he didn't just build a successful business. He inspired a generation to believe that their dreams are always worth the fight. If Arman's journey has moved you, remember that your own story is still being written. Every setback is a setup for a comeback. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Journey to Success. If you found this story inspiring, please hit that like button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more real-life stories that prove your dreams are worth fighting for. We'll see you in the next one.